Welcome back to This Week in Film. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Midwest Matt Lauer. Matt, what's going on?
Not much. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing okay. This is the weekly podcast where we get together and talk about the movies we've seen over the past week. And I think this week we've both seen the same movies.
Excellent.
Which is exciting.
And which are those, Nick?
Well, before we get started, I just wanted to congratulate ourselves on getting to 10,000 listens on the old podcast. We hit 10,000 earlier this week.
Good job, Nick.
Yay, we did it. Very exciting. But let's see. Since we both seen the movies we're going to talk about this week, I guess we should just start off with a spoiler warning for the episode for the movie Trollhunters, and we watched 1922.
And that's Trollhunter, singular.
Trollhunter, yes, okay.
Just in case there's a Trollhunters out there and someone goes to watch that and they're like, this is awful.
There was an animated, because we watched it on Netflix, and there's an animated movie called Trollhunters, and for a moment we weren't sure which one we were supposed to watch.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought you were kidding. Well then it's a good thing we did specify.
Yeah. So what would you like to start with?
Oh man, I've been waiting to hear what your thoughts on Trollhunter for like forever. So let's start there.
Okay. So Trollhunter is a Nordic movie about it's like a found footage movie about trolls.
And hunting them.
Yeah. So like this group of college students are doing a video report on these mysterious murders, and they're being blamed on bears. But while they're doing their investigation, they find out that there's like a poacher or something. So, I don't really understand how they were able to put it all together. But anyway, this guy that they find, he turns out to be, he's a troll hunter. Because in Norway, trolls exist, and they're giant monster trolls. And
now the people who are doing the documentary and talking to this guy, they're not really believing right away, unless I'm recalling incorrectly somehow. They don't believe right away that there are trolls, right?
No, they follow this guy around. The guy tells them to get lost many times, and they keep following him, and eventually they follow him one night while he's on one of his troll hunting missions, and he runs back. Like there's an explosion sound and you hear him running, and then he runs past them, and as he runs past them he yells, "Trolls!" And the word troll in Nordic is the same as it is in English. And so
that pretty much covers the plot, right? Just in terms of like what it's about.
Yeah.
They sort of end up with him or at his side throughout the whole movie. But once they kind of figure out that there actually are trolls, and it's pretty much seeing how they kind of interact and hunt them. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, the guy works for the super secret government agency that is in charge of, they're like the troll security system or something like that, the TSS, I think. And there are many different kinds of trolls. There's super giant trolls. There's smaller trolls that live in groups. And there
are trolls that live under bridges.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That part was great where they're at the bridge and he keeps bringing more and more goats out.
Yep.
Because I started going, T-Rex doesn't want to be fed. He wants to hunt. Um,
Uh,
but overall, I thought the movie was pretty okay. Once we saw the first troll, I was kind of like, oh, okay, we're just gonna keep seeing more trolls. And I was impressed with how good the troll looked. I thought it was gonna look real bad.
yeah, yeah.
But the special effects for the troll were pretty decent. I mean, they weren't super great, but they were pretty decent. And I enjoyed the movie. Jill did not.
No?
Jill thought it was boring.
Well, I didn't recommend it to Jill. Yeah, so I've seen this movie, I think 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I like it more and more. Not just every time I watch it, but like the longer I've had to think about it and kind of come back to it. And the main guy, I think that guy's great. It's such an interesting character because he kind of like you said, he sort of takes these people on begrudgingly, or he's pretty much like, I don't really need you in my way. And he's still kind of just like, I got to do what I got to do. Like, he's kind of focused on what he's doing. He sort of tolerates them as pests.
Yeah.
And he's kind of this casual expert. Like, he said he's part of like this top secret sort of thing, but you look at him and you're like, this guy doesn't look like, top secret anything. He just kind of, he's like that dude who you would be super glad to have him on your like survival expedition, not because he's got any sort of formal training or anything like that, but just because he knows what he's doing. And I enjoyed that a lot. And I agree with you about the effects. Like, because it's kind of a lower budget thing, I was expecting, oh man, when we do finally see one of these trolls, this is going to be bad. But I thought they were surprisingly cool looking. What did you think about the found footage quality of this movie?
I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't really shaky cam too much.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell, like, they were trying to avoid too much of that. And from like a production point of view, the fact that it wasn't super shaky the whole time and I thought was pretty great. Because I didn't feel like I was getting sick or anything like that.
I'm with you 100%. And in fact, I think as far as found footage movies go, that I've seen, this is probably the one that I enjoy how they do it the most because of that. Because it's just like there's enough shakiness to it's not like you're watching a found footage movie and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, wait a minute, when did they get a camera dolly?
Right.
Or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's also not so shaky that it's ridiculous, and it's not, I mean, like, even movies like, the Transformers movies that are super high budget and aren't supposed to be, they're not found footage, but they're so shaky that you can't see what the hell's going on. It just gives you a headache. Like, this one, I thought they would have more reason to do that than anybody because the budget does seem to be lower. But they keep things on the screen, things that you can clearly see things.
Yeah.
It's not giving you a headache, and it doesn't take you out of the film the way some of the shakiness is, where you're like, man, I can tell they just didn't have the budget to make a good special effect, so they shook the camera all over the damn place.
Yeah. Are you?
So yeah.
Are you outside?
I am outside.
Oh, I can hear a bird.
So and just because I saw this movie this week but happened to have forgotten, it is subtitled, right?
Yeah, it's in Nordic, but it has English subtitles. Which I gotta say, because we finished watching Trollhunters and then went right into watching 1922, and I expected there to be more Nordic talk. So when Thomas Jane starts talking, I was really taken aback for a minute. I was like, oh man, he's speaking English through his teeth.
How am I supposed to know what he's saying? I can't read it.
Right.
Oh, right.
The other thing about Trollhunter I thought was funny was that and again we're getting into spoilers, so if you wanted to see Trollhunter, please stop listening now.
Would you recommend that your listeners do check it out?
I would say check it out. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I do feel like they show the trolls a little too soon. Like they show the monsters too soon, because like once I saw it, I was like, oh okay. So it's just going to be more of this for the rest of the movie. And I was kind of right. But the journey that you go on with them is pretty interesting. And like you said, the main Trollhunter guy, he is a fascinating character. You really believe that this guy is a Trollhunter.
Yeah, you kind of want to go with him on a hunt.
Yeah.
Like I did. I'm like, man, I wish I could find this guy and just go hunting trolls with him, even if he was just, in reality, obviously it would not be a thing, but
or is it?
I would enjoy going around with that specific guy, even if there was no such thing, even if he was just completely lost.
Yeah, I wonder if that,
you know what?
I wonder if that actor's in any other movies. I'm sure he is, because that was probably as big a budget as a Nordic movie gets. Let's see, I have the IMDb page here. His name is Otto Jespersen, and he was in a movie called Trollhunter, which we're talking about. I remember that one. A movie called, I want to say Bjorning, because it's an O with a slash in it. And that movie has a 6.2 rating. It's about illegal sports car racing in Norway.
Cars don't interest me. I'll pass.
And he's in another movie.
Hey, what's the Trollhunter rating?
Trollhunter is rated 7.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. He's also in a movie called Nat Skiffet, and it's a TV show which has 10 episodes. Oh, and it's rated 8.1. But I thought he was a terrific actor. I totally believed that he was a Trollhunter the entire time.
I feel like found footage movies wise, it's really up there. And I know maybe I oversold it to you a little bit, but I actually give it some time. I'll be interested how it kind of sits with you over time also.
Sure. The other thing that I liked was when, like, towards the end, when the guy who's running the camera admits that he's Christian, and they're all like, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
Yeah, that Christian element, when it first popped up, I was like, I don't know what I think of that, but I thought it ended up being kind of an interesting element in the movie.
Yeah. Do you have any more of the troll stench? They can smell me.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember the bridge scene when the troll just grabs the dude and like slams him around. That it's kind of
he's wearing the suit of armor.
Yeah. It's probably the most, other than that there are trolls, the most unrealistic part of the movie. But it worked for me, and I found it pretty kind of interesting and funny. And the whole like suit of armor thing worked.
Yeah. Well, the thing tries to bite him and he can't, so he gives up immediately.
Did you ever see the movie Ned Kelly?
About the serial killer?
No, he's like kind of like an Australian Bonnie and Clyde, I guess Clyde guy, or Billy the Kid sort of thing.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's pretty decent. It's got Orlando Bloom and Heath Ledger.
Really?
R.I.P. And and there's now I feel like I'm spoiling something here. Well, to a degree, there's a suit of armor kind of thing. and it's sort of ridiculous, but it works in the movie. And I felt like this was kind of like that too, where I'm like, this is kind of dumb, and then I'm like, no, I'm entertained, and it somehow fits because it's just kind of quasi-fantastical.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess it's pretty legit fantastical since they're trolls, but anyway. I don't know if I have much to add on Trollhunter, other than that I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah.
Sorry if it feels like I oversold it.
No, it was fine. It was entertaining. I love when the camera guy got killed. That was great. Because
remind me how that happened.
That was during the scene where he admits that he's Christian and the trolls can smell him. This is after the trolls were farting, which really made me laugh. So they're running away, and then he gets caught by a troll, and the camera gets lifted up into the sky, and like you can hear him getting ripped in half.
Oh, right.
And then in the very next scene, they just call in a replacement camera operator. They're like, we need another camera operator. Yeah, Trollhunter is definitely worth checking out. If you haven't seen it. I don't think that us spoiling anything about it really ruins anything, because you meet the trolls very early in the movie. It's not like Jaws where they hide the shark until like the halfway through the second act or whatever.
Yeah, you're not watching the movie it's not like you're wondering whether the guy is, just imagining this stuff, and you're waiting to see whether it's true or not. It's established pretty early that it's a real thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like very quickly they established trolls are real. Here they are, and here's a whole bunch of them. So that's Trollhunters. Would you like to talk about 1922?
Sure.
Okay, you can begin.
So 1922 is a movie based on a Stephen King, I think, novella, or short story. I'm not really quite sure what the difference is there.
Yeah, we were trying to figure that out too. I said, because Jill asked the same question, and I said, I think a novella is something that's longer than a short story, but shorter than a novel.
Yeah, I think like at least like the Edgar Allan Poe definition of a short story is something that can be read in one sitting. So maybe a novella is two sittings. Right. But either way, I'm not generally a fan of Stephen King movies. With some exceptions, like, I enjoyed Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption. But when it comes to the stuff that's supposed to be a little creepier, it's kind of hit or miss. Usually miss. But I like this one, and so what it's about is a father, son, and mother or wife, and the father, played by Thomas Jane, which you wouldn't even realize unless you looked at the credits. I think I was watching and I was like, who is this guy? He's a pretty good actor, and I don't recognize him. But something about him seems familiar here and there. And I looked it up.
When it started, I knew Thomas Jane was in it, but I did not recognize him as the farmer.
Well, yeah, for two reasons. One, he looks hard to recognize, and he's acting really well. I didn't know Thomas Jane could really do. And I've seen him in stuff where it's pretty corny and whatnot, like Deep Blue Sea and what was that other one? The Punisher.
Yeah.
But he's really good in it, and I was watching and just going, I don't know who this is. Every now and again, he would look a little familiar, and then I looked it up, saw it was him, and still just like couldn't believe it. But anyway, so he wants to keep the farm that they have, and his wife wants to take their son and go to whatever the nearest city is.
Omaha.
And is it?
Yeah. Great Counting Crows song.
Well, so she wants to go to the city, and they're kind of going back and forth on it. And spoiler alert, I'm about to spoil something pretty key.
Yeah, if you
That
wanted to
was
watch, if you wanted to watch 1922, we're about to ruin it for you.
Yeah. Thomas Jane kills his wife, or the character kills the character's wife. So he kind of walks his son through it and gets his son on board with killing her. And they do, and then, kind of has the consequences of kind of tearing them apart and haunting him throughout the rest of the movie. And that's pretty much, plot-wise, that's pretty much it. There is some involvement of local police who are suspicious of him. But it's definitely more about like a telltale heart sort of story than it is him trying to get away from the police. Right. And it's a slow lead up to like him really being haunted. For the most part, it's kind of just seeing a little bit of like how it plays out between him and the son, and then eventually at the end, it all kind of comes together in misery.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought that the end of the movie was really bad. I did not care for the end of the movie, but
like once it starts getting paranormal.
Basically once he like loses the house, it when they're wrapping everything up, I feel like they had no idea how to end it. So they were just like, okay, like because the movie starts off with a man entering a hotel room, and he starts writing, I guess, his memoirs. And I didn't realize that it was Thomas Jane right away. But it's Thomas Jane, and he's writing his I guess you could just call it a confession about what happened during the year of 1922. And at the end of the movie, you find out that it's the year 1930. And I guess his ghosts have finally caught up to him. That's it. All got a little confusing, and it just wasn't very clear as to what was going on, other than he was crazy.
I completely forgot that it was sort of a framed story and that he was telling it in confession. I totally forgot that.
Yeah. So, as far as performances go, I thought the performances were great. I thought Thomas Jane was outstanding.
Yeah.
I thought his son did a good job, and what I didn't like is they really don't establish that the wife and husband don't get along very well until it's convenient to the story. Because there's that one scene that they show where the three of them are on the porch and they're all enjoying lemonade, and I was like, oh, these people are having a really nice time. Like, what do you mean? There's a threat of murder?
Yeah, actually, I do remember it being a little bit, like, being pretty subtle and kind of wondering at first. But I do feel like when I watched it that there was some hint of that. Like, I was not quite sure whether or not, like, what the nature of the relationship was. So maybe that just reads a little bit differently from person to person.
Maybe. And then they established pretty quickly that the wife hates their life. They live on that farm, and she wants to move to the city, and so he decides the only way. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I guess he just wanted the land to grow more corn on, but his wife receives an inheritance of like 100 acres that this pig farm wants to buy. It's all kind of a little strange. But like, why wouldn't he just sell the land and take the divorce?
Well, I think it was like if he did divorce her, he would lose the land. So are you saying, like, why wouldn't he just do it in that order?
Yeah. Like, she says at one point, she's like, why don't we'll sell the land and split the money and we'll go our separate ways. And he gets concerned that she's going to take his son away to the city, and he'll become like a city boy where people in the city are fools. Because I guess you're only a real man if you work on a farm.
Well, I guess it's that he wants both. He wants to keep the farm, so selling it isn't really an option. And he wants to keep his son, so I guess divorcing isn't exactly an option either.
Right. I also thought it was a little strange how they kind of convinced the son to murder the mom, by like they have this one moment together where the husband has decided that he's going to kill her, and he decides to tell her, sure, we can sell the land, we can do what you want to do, and she decides to celebrate by getting like hammered drunk. And,
oh yeah, she's all about it.
And what happens then? Like they're all on the porch having a nice time, and the son is dating the next door neighbor's daughter, and the mom starts getting real crude with the boy, like talking about how he's dealing with the girlfriend sexually and stuff. And that's what pushes the son over the edge. Like he can't talk about Shannon like that. And the father like leads him into it, saying like, but she will, and she'll drive you apart. You know, she'll take her away from you. Like the way the father convinces the son that the only way for them to stay together is to have the mom murdered. I thought was a little heavy-handed, but you know,
it seems a little easy. Like there's not much. It's not very gradual. You don't get to see much progression of it. It's sort of like, oh, it threatens the relationship of him and his girlfriend, so of course he's down with killing his mom.
Yeah,
and it is pretty quick and easy. And I'm like, that's fair that you might get in some fights about it, or you might be, if it was a custody fight kind of thing, like live with me and don't live with your mother, I could see that maybe swaying the kid.
Right.
But I mean, the kid's made out to look like a pretty, decent kid.
Yeah.
So for him to be like kind of down with it, it's not, you don't even see a whole lot of like mixed feelings about it. You don't see the kid struggle that much. He just kind of is like, all right, I'm dumb now and I will do that.
Yeah. The son just kind of decides to go along with it. And the kid's 14 years old, which is, I guess, old enough. The son decides to go along with it a little too easy, but they got to move the movie along. The plot's got to move along. And so they go to, the wife is like hammer drunk, passed out, and then they decide the best way to commit murder is to slice her throat, which I thought was really dumb. Like, I thought that was like, let's pick the messiest way to do this. And the reason that he says to slice her throat is because it'll be quick and she won't feel it. And then like the dad can't even do it cleanly. Like he's got to cut her throat like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And like it creates such a mess. That
it doesn't go as advertised.
Yeah. I mean, what a mess. It's just, as you're kind of pointing out the things that fell a little short or were kind of weak in the movie, I'll agree with you on those things. I think probably the one of the reasons I ended up enjoying it so much was probably Thomas Jane being so surprised that it was him. Like, a kind of like, listeners, Nick and I have watched Thomas Jane in these terrible movies before, and probably not been super kind to his acting abilities. So seeing him like do such a good job, I was kind of like proud of him. I'm like, you go, dude. Yeah, he really disappears into that character.
Yeah, and since then I saw him in that other movie I mentioned, Before I Wake, I think is the name of it.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. I was like, who's this guy? He's a good actor, and I don't recognize him. In fact, I had written down a note that said, not Aaron Eckhart. because he looks kind of like Aaron Eckhart in
Yeah,
this
I'll
movie.
give you that.
And then I was like, oh yeah, it's Thomas Jane again.
Yeah,
so he's getting really good.
After we watched 1922, we just had Netflix open, and I guess we should add 1922 is like a Netflix original movie, if you're looking to find it. But we were just kind of flipping around on Netflix where it starts automatically playing trailers for you if you sit on the title for a second or two. And we went over to that Before I Wake, and I had forgotten that you had said that you saw that too. And there's like a long-haired, crazy-looking guy, and Jill looks it up, and she goes, "Oh, and that's Thomas Jane too." What a fun time.
Yeah, he's I guess really stepped up his game. And I do think, and again, this is more your area than mine, but like I do think it's a nicely filmed movie.
Oh yeah,
cinematography.
It looks great. Everything looks really like you can feel the heat. Like they're in Nebraska in the summer, and like you can really feel how hot it is. Like, and all I can think is how uncomfortable it must have been back then.
Yeah, it like feels sticky.
Everything, it's just wet, hot, damp. And then Jill pointed out, like, because the bed that they sleep on, she's like, oh, beds back then must have been just so uncomfortable. Just like a bag of fluff.
Yeah, you can feel like it's lumpiness.
Yeah. And then like just how stifling the rooms must be, because at one point the police officer is like searching the house for any trace of the wife because the husband's reported her missing, and the police officer comes in the bedroom and he goes, "Oh, this is a nice room," and it's hideous. Like it's a farmhouse bedroom for people who aren't very well off. Like, I mean, and the cop says something along the lines of, "Oh, and this is where you guys sleep. I guess it's pretty comfortable." And the husband says, "Yeah, well, the sun sets on the other side of the house, so it doesn't get too hot." And I'm like, go to hell. Like, it's probably 100 degrees in there every night.
Yeah, so I don't know what point I have about this, but I feel like I want to mention the cow thing.
Yeah.
So, the cow thing.
Yeah, so the husband, to dispose of the wife, instead of dragging her out to the cornfield where no one will ever find her, he decides that the best way to do it is to throw the body of the wife into this well, this like dried up well that they have on the property, and they throw her in there, and he goes back like a couple days later and like looks down into it, and like rats are eating the wife, which is a pretty graphic scene. I thought that was awesome.
Well, and it's interesting because it really seems to disturb him.
Yeah, it really implants itself into his mind, and like, because he even reacts like he like throws the bag.
Shoot it or something.
He has her suitcase with like all her clothes in it, and he throws it at them. And he's like, "Get off of her!" at the rats, because that one rat that climbs out of her mouth, which was gross and awesome, and and that's what sets up the rat thing for the rest of the movie. So his plan is to. So he throws the wife into the well, and then a couple days go by, and they decide that the best way to hide the body is to bury her in the well. But you can't just fill in a well like the day after your wife leaves. So they lead the cow on top of a well where it falls through the well cover. And then the cow doesn't die right away.
Oh, that's right. It's the cow that he shoots.
Yeah. He shoots the cow. But like the cow is down there like screaming in pain. He's like,
Screaming.
he's just like, God damn it, I gotta shoot the cow now. So he goes inside and gets the cow gun. He goes inside to get the gun, and he shoots the cow, and then that's their cover for having to fill in the well, is that like this livestock got lost over top of it, and then that's how they bury the wife as well.
Now, Nick, I've never been a detective, and to my knowledge, you haven't either.
I've portrayed one here and there.
But here's my thought. I go to a farm where a guy's wife mysteriously disappeared. I'm already suspicious. He goes, when I go, hey, what's up with this well? He goes, yeah, my cow fell in it.
Yeah.
Wait a second, what? Does that happen? I think I'd be kind of like if he were to say, yeah, the cow just walked up and fell in the well, I would have to imagine someone leading it there. Pretty much the way it actually happened.
Why would a cow go up onto the well? It's a pretty, but then like later in the movie, like when his life is really gone to shit and he's got the cow living in the house with him, when he comes back from
a different cow.
Yeah. When he comes back home and the cow has fallen down the steps, which is the only thing I can think of is that happened to the cow, is that I guess cows are just stupid.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't imagine one falling down the well.
Yeah.
But you know, when you were mentioning
also, it was a really bad visual effect when the cow falls down the well.
It is. It almost just sort of explosive. like the ground beneath it, or the wood or whatever that it was standing on, is just sort of like pulverizes itself.
Uh-huh.
And the cow falls down. Like you almost like expect the cow to like look at the camera, like as its body's falling down, like its face is still in place,
like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, like it's gonna pull out a little sign that's like "Yipes."
And then another thing, and then this just reflects on my current life, is I've been doing a lot of yard work, and in my front garden bed, I've created this retaining wall, and I have to fill it in with like all this fill dirt. And it's about 4 feet high at its highest point. And the amount of dirt that I have to put into this thing to get it to fill up to the line where I'm going to put like topsoil down, there's so much dirt that it's insane. Like how much that the idea that these two guys could fill in that giant well in an afternoon with fill dirt is insane. Like the amount of dirt that it's taken for me to fill in my little garden bed, and the amount of dirt that they need to fill in that giant well, and they just kind of gloss over that they do it in a day and a half, maybe, is ridiculous.
Maybe they just kind of cover the cow.
No, they show that the dirt is all the way to the top.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, they show that it's all that the well is completely filled in.
Well, you know, going back to the wife being down there and the rats chewing at her and him getting kind of freaked out about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was thinking more about like his response. Like he seems not just grossed out, but kind of offended that the rats are like eating her.
Yeah.
And while on one hand, it seems like, well, you seem pretty comfortable killing your wife. I will say that when he lies to her and says, hey, you know what, I've changed my mind, I think we should move to the city, she seems genuinely excited about the whole thing. Like she doesn't just seem to go like, oh good, I get to move to the city. She seems like happy with him.
Yeah.
Like it seems like there's a, like up to that point, I haven't, in spite of like maybe a nice lemonade on the porch or whatever, like haven't gotten the sense of like she really wants to be happy with him, or like she just wants this life. But in that moment, once he says that, it seems like she's really relieved to be able to be like happy with him too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when the rat thing happens, it kind of feels like there's a resonance there of like, oh, these people did really love each other once.
Yeah, at one point they did love each other and care for each other. And what does the man refer to the voice in his head that says to kill his wife? Does he call him the conniving man?
I don't remember.
I think that's what he refers to, like, because he thinks of a bunch of different ways that he can get out of his marriage and still keep the farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, like, the conniving man says that this is the only way, is to, like, kill the wife or, like, fake her disappearance and whatnot. I can't remember, but like, I guess it's just like the bad voice inside his head, like, for, like, I guess, because I mean, it seems like he decides to kill his wife over the course of a week. Like, they're not happy together, but he decides that the only way for him to maintain the life that he has is to have her killed instead of just letting her go.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's because that's the point in time that she's become so insistent that they leave. You know, that it's like, okay, so this is going to be there's no way to keep us here together anymore. Maybe up to that point, it's been like an ongoing argument for months or years, and it's just kind of seemed like, oh, maybe she'll never get around to deciding for sure. I mean, I'm making up a lot of subjects here.
Sure.
But in terms of it being a quick decision, it might just be that it's something that finally was like an ultimatum.
So what did you think about the supernatural stuff that starts happening to him?
I was not a huge fan.
Now, did you catch, like, he was drinking, basically he was drinking opium? Like, at one point a rat bites his hand and he gets, like, sick from it, like he gets a bad infection, and he starts drinking this opium drink. Did you catch that was opium liquor?
You know, I don't know. I might have during the movie realized that. I don't know that I made much of it because it's not like, when I think of the movie, that's not something that I think of. So I'm not sure if I did or not. But are you getting at that, like, maybe that's what the paranormal stuff is, that it's just his head?
Yeah, because
drugged out.
Back in the day, they used to prescribe women basically like opium liquor.
Laudanum.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what he's drinking, I think. He's because it's for, like, female hysterics, I think it says on the bottle. Which they don't prescribe anymore because it's opium, which is not super great for you. That's a happy little bird.
Here? I didn't even hear it.
Yeah. It is chirping away. But anyway, so, like, I think that he starts basically, he's not only losing his, like, senses, but his son, we forgot to mention that his son leaves.
Yeah.
His son gets the girl next door pregnant, and he basically runs away. He runs away to, like, elope with the girl, and we don't know what happens to the son. But then the father gets bit by a rat. The rat bite gets infected, and he starts drinking this opium drink. And it's winter, so he can't get to a doctor, which I thought was an interesting touch. Like, he's trapped on this farm, and so then he's just drinking this opium drink, I guess, for pain, and he starts seeing the body of his wife walking around the house. And
that happens.
And what did you think of that? Like, when the body of the wife, like, chases him down the basement, or scares him down into the basement, and she starts whispering to him like everything that his son has gone through. His son basically turns into like a bank robber in order to pay for his life. Did you think that was what was actually happening to the son, or was the father just imagining it?
I kind of like, I would have liked the idea more of like him just kind of imagining what's going on or finding out in a normal way. And so I think it is what's going on. I think it is what's happened to his son.
Yeah.
But I don't like that it's his ghost wife telling him.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah. I thought it was kind of a lazy... Like what I thought was happening was that he was imagining his son, because the sheriff comes by the house after the son runs away and says that a boy matching his son's description robbed the bank.
Yeah.
And the father's like, now you don't know that it was him. He's a good boy. He wouldn't do anything like that. And so when the wife starts telling him when the body of the wife starts telling him all the terrible things his son is doing, I think it would have been maybe a little better if he was just imagining his son doing all these terrible things, but in reality the son was doing just fine.
That would have been an interesting way to go with it. I guess there's something to it in terms of like, hey, you ruined your kid, and that's probably the worst thing you could do in your own mind.
Right.
So I guess it would work either way. As long as he thought that was going on, it would still be the same impact on him. But I guess I do also appreciate the idea that, like, hey, when you kill your mom, you're going to be apt to go down some other bad paths, too.
Yeah, it's not going to be... You're not going to have a pretty super life after you do something like that.
Yeah, it would be a little strange to have the movie end and have the kid doing fine. From the angle of the father, it would be kind of interesting that he thinks everything's going badly, but the kid's doing fine. But for the angle of, like, the kid, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about the kid having a happy life after murdering his mom.
Yeah.
But, I if it is in his head, which I think is fair as an idea, that the haunting, his own internal haunting of his wife sort of in his own sort of unconscious brings him to reality and says, hey, we've messed up so much stuff. We did do this to our son. That's okay. But I guess with it being so, I don't know, visually sort of like, it does seem kind of paranormal. It doesn't seem like it's all just in his head.
Uh-huh.
That I don't like when ghosts fill in things for people.
Yeah. It feels lazy.
Yeah. I didn't like it in, what's that overrated space movie with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney?
Gravity?
Yeah, Gravity.
I loved Gravity.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that at all. I know you love space stuff. And it is a cool movie to watch, like to see, especially on the big screen. But I didn't think it was all that great as like a story. And I didn't like
the story behind it is terrible.
Well, and at the end, instead of her just kind of, I know it is supposed to be sort of just her again, like her unconscious, her internalized George Clooney, it's her, she's thinking through things. But I'd rather have her do that in a way where she's clearly just thinking it through rather than George Clooney's ghost showing up and being like, all right, now push that button and pull that knob.
Right.
or whatever. So yeah, I don't like when ghosts seem to fill in gaps for people.
Yeah, especially if the ghost isn't really there. Like,
yeah, so I take it you weren't a fan either of that element.
I thought it was a little lazy, and especially like the end of the movie when they're all ghosts and they're holding a knife. What do you think is happening at the end of the movie?
Paint the picture a little bit more for me again.
So
they're all ghosts.
The very end of the movie, he's wrapping up his story about how he loses the farm and he moves to Omaha and takes a job as like a day laborer, and this is after he's lost his hand and everything. And he he like gets this hotel room, and in the hotel room is where he's been writing the story, and these rats are like eating their way into the room. And
right.
And then he finishes writing the story, and he turns around, and it's the 3 bodies of his wife, his son, and his son's girlfriend, and and they're all like eaten by the rats that they were left next to. Let me step back for a minute. When the body of the son is brought back to the father, the son dies, by the way. I'm not sure if we made that clear. The son kills himself because the daughter gets shot during a botched robbery, and the girlfriend gets shot during a botched robbery, and he has to identify the body in the morgue, and the morgue operator doesn't warn him, like he doesn't say, "Hey, your son's body, the rats got to him." He just pulls the blanket back, and his son's eaten face is just
right.
It's just there, and Thomas Jane's like, "Whoa!"
I remember the rats eating their way through the wall. I do not remember the 3 bodies just chilling out behind him.
Oh, that was like the very last shot of the movie. Was the wife was standing there, the son was standing there, the son is holding a butcher's knife, and the girlfriend is standing with them too. And then they cut back to the husband, and he says something. I don't remember what he says, but he's like something along the lines of, no matter what you do, you always get caught. Something like that. And then that's where the movie ends. And I think it's implied that either he kills himself or the ghosts kill him. But it's not very clear what exactly happens at the end. I thought the last 10 minutes of the movie were kind of all over the place.
Well, then I'm going to go ahead and say the last scene isn't very memorable because I don't remember it. Well, it sounds like it sounds like overall, it sounds like we're both kind of on the same page. Like this has some writing weaknesses, some things that could have been done a little bit better, but overall the performance and the atmosphere of it's worth people watching.
Yeah, the movie's definitely worth checking out. The last 10 to 20 minutes is kind of a mess. You could tell they didn't know how to end the movie or where to end the movie, so that they're just kind of like, it just kind of goes along and then it stops.
Well, that sounds kind of like sounds familiar as far as Stephen King things go.
Mm-hmm. But another thing that I liked about the movie is now John Grisham is the king of oh
God, terrible!
The king of not knowing how to end anything. It's like what's the one where the kid saw the crime?
The Client.
Yeah, where the whole movie or the whole book, the kid's like, I'm not going to testify, and then the last page is, I guess I'll testify.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna have to end it here because my twins are waking up.
Sounds like duty calls.
Time to get back to work.
Good timing, kids.
Anything to add for any last mentions, Matt?
No, I don't think I have anything to throw out there.
All right. And I just wanted to thank everybody for getting us to 10,000 listens. Is a huge accomplishment. I was really impressed and really proud. So thank you so much. And if you're looking to help out the show in any other way, consider writing a review on iTunes and share and subscribe to the show. But if that's the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
Bye.